So this is my happy birthday card app. This is the final product. My aim was to have a simple picture in the center, and then happy birthday to the person, and then from myself at the bottom, just with the image faded at the top and the bottom, and the font cursive with the shadow. So this is the code using relative layout, and then the image view here for my cake, text view for happy birthday David, then the other text view from Michael. So specifically with the text, I wanted something that was cursive, wanted a lighter color. I wanted it was going to be on a slightly light background, so I decided that I wanted to have a shadow on it that was black, so that way it would pop a bit more, be a bit more easier to read. So this specifically was the code that I had to look up to put in a shadow for the font. It wasn't too hard to find this and use it. Just change this for whatever color you want it to be, and then play around with the radius and these two values here from like 1.5 upwards, just to make the shadow a bit larger and more obvious. So this is what I settled on originally, and the padding here is 20 dips. Originally for this one I had the margins set up as 20 dips, but then I came to find that with cursive, the font, the exclamation point would sit outside of the text view and get cut off if I use the layout instead of padding the text view. So I changed that, modified that to make it look a little bit more attractive, and then mimicked the shading here similarly as above. With the fade on the image, I couldn't find any simple code that you would just add for the image view to show the fade that I wanted. Instead, I had to do this weird workaround by creating two pseudo shapes, I guess, with partial transparency to overlay on top of the image. So that's why you see frame layout here. Frame layout is used, it's designed to black out an area on the screen to display a single item. So that would be the faded rectangle there and down here. So you're only meant to have one child in here, which would be this one. But if you have more than one, you just have to use the Android layout gravity to separate the two children, so that way there's no issues with them. So as you can see, this one, layout gravity equals bottom, so it sits down here at the bottom. This one's at the top, sits at the top. So they're both fine to go under the same frame layout. Here's my image, which gets priority at the top and sits underneath the two transparent shapes to show the fading. The only problem I had with the image was that it was originally too large, and I didn't get any error message or anything on here. It came out perfectly fine, but it would keep crashing my app whenever I tried to get the app to work on my phone. So I had to do a bit of trial and error and shrink the image a bit in its physical size until it wouldn't crash the app. It seems to be pretty happy now, and I didn't lose too much of the pixels with the image, so it still seems pretty fine. So the image is just center crop, pretty basic, but then with the frame layout, it puts over these two shapes, one at the bottom, one at the top, with the layout gravity. To do these shapes and create them, you have to put them in drawable, which is pretty easy. Just right click and drawable, new drawable resource file. Then once you open that up, you can create the file and you can go into its code section in the text this is the code I used. This is something similar to what I found online with someone doing something similar with a black transparency fade rectangle. As you can see, I didn't use black, I used a lighter cream color, which has so you have the start color here and then the end color. Both are the same colors, but with the 00 here, it just means that it goes to full transparency. So the start color is fully opaque, and then the end color goes to full transparency. So it's hard to see here, but at the bottom down here, because this is the fade bottom, so I wanted the bottom to be fully opaque, and then it slowly goes to transparency at the top here, full transparency. So with the fade, the second image which goes at the top, you just invert those two numbers. So full transparency at the top, full opaqueness, sorry, and then it goes down to full transparency of the same color at the bottom. And then with these two shapes created with their color and their transparency, then when you go into your frame layout, you can refer to them here, and then they'll appear where you need them to appear within the frame layout over the top of your original image, which is this one. So that was pretty easily sorted once I found some code that worked, and I just played around with it until I got what I needed out of it. So that's pretty much it. Wasn't the only real issues I had was, again, the image being too large, and it took a while for me to realize that was what the problem was for crashing the app. Being able to figure out how to make a fade for the image, which then finding out having to use frame layout to do that with these two specific shapes with the codes under these two text views. Then with cursive and the shadow was pretty easy to figure out, and just playing with the numbers just until I got to the point that I was happy with it. And then again, as I said before, having to change this to padding because the margin layout was cutting off the font, because it's obviously slightly angled because it's cursive. Other than that, it was fun to play around with, and didn't really have any other problems with it. I wanted to keep it simple. I didn't want it to make it too crazy. I was thinking of maybe underlying the text, but that would require having to play around in the strings file down here, so I thought I might put that off maybe for another project and just keep it a bit simple and clean.